And we're back with another episode of All Things 3D. Today, January 9th, 2015, recap day of CES. Mike is out in Las Vegas. He's at the Las Vegas airport. And I'm your co-host, Chris.
I
And
am.
so today we're going to talk about a little bit of what we saw. I kind of manned the station back here at the office, but I got a virtual walkthrough with Mike. So thanks to Mike for taking the time and walking around with all the gear so that I could join you virtually. It was pretty fun. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to check it out, you should go check out our. We did 3 different podcasts live from the floor yesterday at CES in Las Vegas. So we're going to jump right in with some news items, new and old. Talk about what happened at CES, some of our favorite things, and maybe some things that were outside of the scope of CES. But what say you, Mike?
I'm trying to be a little incognito right now. There's a reason for that. It looks like I've been blacklisted by MakerBot. I kind of gave a writer a kind of a scoop that they're going to be coming out with a 3D scanner, and I don't think MakerBot appreciated it. In fact, I had talked to their CEO Jenny Lawson briefly on Wednesday evening to introduce myself and said, yeah, I might be in hot water with you guys. I said, oh, well, we didn't validate that, so it doesn't exist. And they never contacted me on Thursday for the interview, so I don't think I'm in good standing with them. In fact, the guy actually retracted his article because they said that it wasn't being released at CES and you don't have substantial information because we didn't tell you. I don't know, sounds like Apple to me, but he did get it out there for a day, and it's funny because people actually came up to me and said, hey, how did you find that out? But what's interesting, and I'll talk about it, I won't mention his last name, but his name's Michael as well, but he is the CEO of Soft Kinetics, and he actually contacted me when we did our interview with the guy from Ohio with their Android 3D scanner, and he said, you know, we are the scanning component behind that. And I said, oh, great. He said, by the way, we're also the scanning component behind the new MakerBot. So I tried to contact him and said, is this confidential, even though he didn't identify that to me. He didn't say. He said it was public last year, but MakerBot is denying that there'll be anything available, at least at CES, so who knows when it'll come out. But I guess I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little early. So I'm kind of in the dark now, kind of hiding.
Yeah,
I don't want the
yeah.
MakerBot police to come get me, come to my
So,
door.
so I guess I'll jump into some things that I guess I'll jump into my first because this is really typically on Fridays we do our 3D in review, and
And it is Friday.
it is Friday, so we might as well do a little 3D in review, kind of share what we saw, kind of the big innovations that I saw in the 3D realm. The first one that I was really thoroughly impressed with was the Voxel 8 that Autodesk had at their booth, or they were kind of partnering with a company named Voxel 8. Autodesk is apparently writing some software called Wire for these. It's a 3D printer, but it's also capable of printing circuitry. So it's a dual head machine, FDM, and one of the nozzles prints like a solder or like a silver.
Yeah, probably a silver lead tin alloy of something like solder.
Yeah, and so you can actually go on over to YouTube, and if you just type in Voxel 8 or go to Voxel 8, it's spelled VOXEL 8, the number 8. It's actually a beautiful machine because I got pretty limited footage of it, and but they've got a pretty nice video up on Voxel 8's YouTube channel, kind of demoing the machine, showing what it's capable of. And what this is going to let you do is build circuitry directly into your parts and assemblies. So I think it has revolutionary kind of capability. I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of innovation. We're going to see mixing and merging of technologies. We're going to see things that have typically been proprietary manufacturing methods, and we're going to see them kind of expand out into the open source realm. So I just thought I was thoroughly impressed. They had some enclosure thing that had an LED. Obviously, some of the components you still have to
Yeah,
print, but
here
here,
actually
yeah,
is a
here you
quadcopter. Yeah.
yeah, here you can see a quadcopter. They're printing it. All the components or the power distribution, the accelerometer, they can just embed that into the 3D print, the little circuits, and someday we'll probably even see 3D printers that can print the circuits themselves. That's ultimately where this is going. So here's the example of if you are following the video along with us, you can see here they're printing this kind of housing, and they're putting the LEDs in there as it builds, putting pauses in, and then it's printing the circuitry. So they don't have to do any wiring. There's no wiring necessary. All the routing of the electrical is all done by the machine. So pretty revolutionary kind of technology. I'm really looking forward to see where this goes.
Yeah, what's interesting, I don't know if you know the melting point of solder, but it's fairly low. So I'm not surprised that they can do that and then deposit it. I don't know if it's a special type of ABS or higher temperature. But essentially, it probably actually melts the plastic a little bit to embed it, and then as he's showing there, because they've already laid down the contacts, they're able to put the circuit board or whatever component directly on that, and then, as you said, print over the top of it. And in this case, they have a little quadcopter. In fact, I think they even had the quadcopter there, and I don't think I put that on our YouTube channel. But yeah, that was pretty cool. What was the
So
price? Do you
the
remember?
price of the printer is 8,000. I think is where they're going, because I think it's
Hmm.
like a. But one of the things that I get a lot of um, a lot of discussion about in my office, because I do prototyping for a living, is that a lot of people definitely know the patent system is broken, and they don't really, they know that it's a waste of time and money. A lot of them can be easily persuaded that way, because once you read and research, you realize how broken the patent system is. But at the same time, people are a little skeptical of the open source going fully open source. So they don't mind the idea of going open source with some of their technologies, but some of them they would like to keep proprietary. And what this manufacturing method is doing is allowing you to embed maybe proprietary electronics into your open source kind of file, if you will. It's kind of a mix between proprietary and open source.
Yeah,
And
if you
so
remember the old way of doing things, you encapsulated it in epoxy if you didn't want people to get at your circuitry.
right, and
So
so this is kind of like protecting your intellectual property by way of hardware, by way of design, by the way, and so we're going to see a lot of design principles, the way people actually design their parts and their assemblies. We're going to see them design them to protect their own intellectual property, so they're not relying on a antiquated patent system that's broken and really favors people with a lot of money, and and with a lot of legal clout. So to me, it's kind of an exciting technology, because we're going to be able to see people be able. It's going to enable people to take their ideas to market and maybe have a little bit longer lead time before so that they can kind of innovate. It won't scare off the innovators when they're trying to bring a product to market, and they'll have a little bit more lead time to kind of profit or reap the rewards of their idea before the open source community hacks it or reverse engineers it. And obviously, I'm all for open source, and I think it's the future. But not everybody's fully convinced yet. So I think it's kind
yeah,
of a
well, it's interesting, and I don't want to get in a huge discussion on it, but your main breadwinner is the Stratasys, which is fully covered by a lot of intellectual property. Um, and without it, you may not have seen that. So, I like open source, but sometimes I think it can be too disruptive, and I think there needs to be a balance. On that printer, though, just keep in mind that that's more for prototyping. I don't ever see something like that being used for large production runs. That's not the direction to go. But you could, as you said, create prototypes, which, as I know already, giving out betas or prototypes is probably the time when you normally get most of your stuff stolen. So that seems like the perfect idea. Or in the case of that quadcopter, you want all your components to be solid and contained properly, otherwise they could break. And quadcopters have a lot of vibration. So, okay, let's move on to the next item, Chris. What did you have? You want to talk about the
So,
Ultimate?
so the Ultimaker, obviously, yeah. I mean, do you have the ability to bring it up, or you want me to bring it up?
I'd like you to.
Okay.
I think I sent you the link, right? Or just bring up the Ultimaker website.
Yeah, I'll bring up the
And
Ultimaker
while you're doing
website
that,
here.
one of the things that, if you saw one of our earlier podcasts yesterday, we had a nice discussion with Sanders, and he kind of gave us the whole run. But what they're really proud of is, and we've noticed this and we've covered it, their open source attitude as well as their heart. And it appears like they're doing a lot to be part of a lot of funding, or not funding, but what do you want to call it? Uh, Open markets that are giving back to the community.
Right.
And,
They're kind of stimulating growth in the 3D content. They're trying to stimulate growth in the maker movement. Because the more makers out there, the more potential buyers for the machines. So Ultimaker, that was another kind of they unveiled at CES two new machines. The one on the left and the one on the top you can see here. They have the Ultimaker. They have the new Ultimaker 2 XL, I believe it's
2X,
called.
yeah.
2X, and then they have an Ultimaker 2 Go. So they
Yeah,
have like a small one and a bigger one.
and the 2X, or whatever they're calling it, I was going to have a video ready, but the 2X is going to be $3,000, and I like to refer to it because it's literally a miniature version of their 2, is the Ultimaker Mini. Mini-Me, and I was going to pull up a video from Austin Powers to have it play in the background. What was it? You Become Me, or We're One, or whatever the little song that they sang. Did you ever watch any of those Austin Powers, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it reminds me of. I told them, I recommended them that they should create a little video to get the rights to that song or something, because I think it literally looks like a cuter little version of the bigger one. And it is $1,500, so it does come with a reduction in price as well, of about $1,000. So if you don't need a large print bed, it might be a good choice. As I mentioned, or asked Sanders, it is the same hot end and fan assembly. It literally is identical. It's just as a smaller bed, and with that, they said it heats up quickly. You can create rapid prototypes, and they even include a case so that you can transport it. So it's kind of their portable little printer there.
And they've done a refresh on their website, and it's a really nice. I mean, if for people that are web design aficionados, I would highly recommend to go check out Ultimaker's new website. It is incredibly user friendly, and just looks really, really good.
Yeah,
So
it's very polished. So hats off to them.
yeah, it's just a really.
But
Really
another thing I just
website.
want to note, as they said, they identify themselves as giving heart. They are coming out or supporting Enable, and Chris, you're a big fan of them. In fact, you worked with a group in order to try and design something. I don't know where you were at with that, but it's kind of neat. They're going to be, what was it, a steampunk type prosthetic?
It was
It
an
was really
Iron
cool.
Man steampunk hand for a child's prosthetic hand. Yeah, so
So they're
pretty
going to be
cool.
releasing the actual STL, so anybody can use it shortly. So really cool, and I really like the direction they've gone. I was going to have an interview with Eric, but we didn't line up with them. So hopefully we'll have him on in a week or two. He really wanted to talk to me in person, probably to expound upon what Sanders said. So let's move on to the next item, Chris.
Okay, and another one. I saw you do a walk by, but I don't think we really got a good kind of. This is just a small news item, but it's kind of worth noting, I guess. The company Solidoodler, who makes the little doodle pen, has announced their Kickstarter of the 3Doodler 2.0, and they're about halfway through their campaign. And so the basic difference is the pen is like a quarter of the size and half the weight or something, and is pretty nifty little 3Doodler. And
I
they
guess I
already
missed the
are
early bird
almost.
on it.
they are almost at $600,000 that they've raised for this 3D printing pen. So they've got a pretty big backing, a pretty big following, and so you can pick one of these things. It looks like for $99 you can pick one
So
up.
when do they expect delivery? It looks like obviously I probably missed the early bird on this, but so if I wanted to go ahead and use the Kickstarter now,
April 2015, so April
that's
of
not too
this year.
bad.
No, I mean, so they probably are well on their way to already having tooling done,
Yep.
and they have. So you can read about it on Kickstarter's website. If you just go to Kickstarter and type in 3Doodler, that's the number 3, and Doodler, Doodler, you should be able to find it and check it out if you want to get one of these cool little pens. I don't have one because I don't really see a use for it for myself.
Well, I was just going to bring up the use for it. I mean, obviously there's the artistic or crafts, but it also, as we've talked to others, it's an adhesive pen. So if you're working in ABS or PLA, I don't know if it does ABS, but if you're working in PLA, it's really hard unless you use like super glue or something like that to adhere components. So what I've heard people doing is layering a little bit of this into the grooves or filling and binding parts together. So that's where I see a big plus in this kind of, with it being a smaller unit like that. Now, does that have a self-powered drive? So you just start it and it immediately starts extruding? I think it does.
Yeah, I think select your speed and start doodling. It needs to warm up, obviously. You have to let it warm up. But yeah, it's got its own drive built in there.
Yeah, so that, I think when I get back, I'm going to Kickstarter that one. That looks like a neat product, and I could find uses for it. I glue a lot of things together, and
and for touching up a part, I could definitely see a use of it. So yeah, I mean, for I think for a lot of people, it would probably be pretty useful.
Yep.
So pretty cool. So that was another one, and I could go on to another one.
Yeah, let's go on, and then I'm going to talk about one of my projects that looks like it's really going to move forward, but what did you want to talk about now?
So this is Old World Labs. If you go to oldworldlabs.com, they've announced a new stereolithography machine, yet another. I kind of predicted a few months ago, or about a year ago, that this year would be the year of SLA, that we'd see a growth in that segment of the market as we have seen in the FDM, FFF world in the last several years. We're going to see that same growth in the SLA market, and sure enough, CES. How many SLA machines did you see, Mike? I mean, I saw at least 10.
I don't know. Well, you were with me. I would say there was only maybe a couple of others besides that. I'd say a dozen. There was quite a few there, and some of them were very reasonable, as we saw with the what's the XYZ. They have an SLA they're going to be putting out for what, $500, $560, which was pretty good, and then obviously the prices go up from there.
So you've got See Me CNC was in the limelight. You've got Autodesk has their Ember. You had that Italian company was entering the market.
You know, what's interesting is that John and Steve didn't show, and actually they didn't have one in their booth. So I'm wondering if they're still going to be moving forward with their little SLA printer. They were really promoting the Orion and their new ABS, which we can talk about. They've got their new fully ABS injected Molden Orion, and they've got some new techniques in order to hold the hot end in place. So you should go check out that, or check out our first day. Yeah, I think that's a kind of, and what would they say, it was about $399 or something like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it was very reasonable. So if you're into a Delta printer, you know, of course, anytime you get below 500, your build size gets reduced. But you know, the fact that they went with injected Molden and a new mounting system, or what do you want to call it, the hinge or pivot points, might be something really to look into. It looked pretty neat.
So so this is Old World Labs. So it's an Old World Labs OWL, MC1, OWL standing for Old World Labs. You can check them out. They're claiming a 1 micron accuracy. This is a new SLA company, but precision on the machine is 100 nanometer mechanical capability.
Wow.
So accuracy within plus or minus 500 nanometers.
So
Uh,
were they at the show? Did we see this?
I did not see it via our virtual tour, so I don't think that they are kind of big enough yet that they were at CES, and I don't really see any news on their website about being at CES. However, they did pop up in my news feed, so I definitely thought it was worth mentioning.
Sure is.
Um, yeah,
I'll tell
so
you what. I'll contact them and see if we can get them on and do an interview with them. With that kind of, one, I want to know how much it's going to cost, and two, yeah, how are they actually be able to provide that much accuracy?
so here's another one. Check this one out. This is 100 nanometer resolution, so it's a tenth of the OWL MC1.
Wow.
And the accuracy is plus or minus 50 nanometers. So I don't know exactly what kind of resins they're using, but pretty interesting. It's it looks like a pretty fun. It's a pretty cool looking machine, that's for sure. So
yeah. Well, the important with all these is, yes, you can get this accuracy, and yes, you can get the precision, and the very small measurements. But what are what's the cost of doing so? Um, as we know with the Ember from Autodesk, it's a nice looking SLA printer, but it's also $6,000. So are we getting into these exotic types, and we're looking at above $5,000?
well, and it gets to a point like so. I guess for research, I guess this is mostly for research that they'll want that resolution, but for all practical aspects. You know, we're able to land a lander on a comet. Philae. We can land on a comet, and I don't think that they are getting 100 nanometer resolution on the parts that they're sending up on those. So I don't really know what the demand is for something of that precise or that high of resolution, but yeah, that might be something worth checking into with them and ask them these kind of questions.
Okay, we'll do so. Well, we've got a lot of contacts coming, and you know what? My battery went dead, and I was right around the corner from Lozbot, and I know that you're a huge fan. In fact, off to your left there is your little baby. Actually, it's a big baby. Your Taz. Taz? Is that it?
As for, yeah.
Taz 4. And they had a few of them, so I'm going to try and get that up. They have the Taz 4, and then they've got a smaller version. And as I mentioned, Chris, I've got a T-shirt for you. They wanted to make sure. Now, I got you a medium. Is that all right?
Yeah, medium is my size,
okay.
And so they unveiled. I had a heads up. They had told me a few months ago that I could have pre-ordered this machine because I was in the process of getting my Taz 4, but the Lulzbot unveiled at CES a Lulzbot Mini, and so it's their newest printer in their lineup, and it's a really capable machine. It's got a little bit smaller build envelope, so it's only about 152 millimeters by 152 millimeters. So it's a 6x6 by 6.2 inch build envelope. So quite a bit smaller, but the price of it is really affordable. So let's look at their. Let me look at their kit. I don't want to misquote it. Oh, it doesn't have their pricing on the website. I thought they were going to offer it for, I think, around $1,500.
That sounds about right. I think I asked them about
$1,350.
Okay.
So $1,350 is the list price right here. So, so if you're looking for a printer, I highly recommend the Lulzbot printers. They got pretty much runner-up in the make shootouts. So the Ultimaker 2 got took the prize for took the blue ribbon on the make shootout. And I think,
Chris.
Yeah.
I got to get going.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
So I want to quickly say that Cipitl had something really great to talk about. I can talk about it now since they showed it. They're using their structure sensor now to map rooms and then put you into a virtual environment. And we're looking at actually creating a link between that and your phone so that you can literally put on some goggles and work with it. Okay, on that note, I've got to go. wrap it up for us, and then before I miss my flight.
All right. Thanks again, Mike, for heading out there and being our boots on the ground at CES Las Vegas 2015. And all our listeners that are joining in, if you want to go get a recap of the CES show, you can go check it out at allthings3d.net, or our podcast can be found on our All Things 3D YouTube channel, where you can watch it live or watch us walking around and commenting on what was going on at CES. So we will see you next week on All Things 3D.
Okay, bye.